You're watching News 24 Live. An Eye for a Tooth is the first publication by young South African author Murray Hamilton. It's a crime novel and draws inspiration on South Africa's unique contexts and conditions. We're going to review the book this morning with the author himself. Murray, good day. Thank you very much for joining us all the way down from Johannesburg.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
So, tell us a bit about your background and what inspired you to, I guess, quit the corporate game, which you knew very well, and become a writer.
Well, writing has always been a passion of mine, all the way for as long as I can really remember. I have done various other things, you know, many fingers and many pies, from living and working in London for the Man. Binocular hire was something I delved into as well. Stationery was something else. So all of those things really focused on the business side of my experience for having studied business at university. But I also studied English in order to keep myself sane, I suppose, and because I really, really enjoyed it. And it came to a point a couple of years ago where I got a bit of a push and said, listen, you must do what you want, do what you're passionate about. And I was fortunate enough to be in a position to be able to take time off of formal employment and try and make this my career. And so that's what really got me going.
Yeah.
And so I did it full time. From end of 2013, I stopped and really focused on the book.
Okay, so it's a crime thriller, and
Yes.
as I mentioned in my intro, drawing on a lot of the sort of uniquely South African context. And your protagonist, this Jack Grant, is he based on a particular character in your life? What sort of themes sort of run through the book?
Well, he's not based on anybody, although that's very difficult to say. A lot of people that have read the book have said that Jack Grant is me, which is quite ridiculous because he's not. A lot of the other characters as well, people who I know have tried to position themselves as that character or try to pick someone else as that character. But no, it's a mishmash of people and places that I've been. Having recently come back, 5 years ago, I got back to South Africa. And crime is one of our serious issues, and particularly sex crime. Not a lot of the sex crimes that do occur get any kind of coverage because nobody really knows what happens. And it is too prevalent, and I think a lot of people have had their heads buried, not realizing how much of it actually goes on. And so I've chosen sex crime as this focus for the first novel, because I like to bring people's attention back to the major problem we have with that kind of crime in South Africa. And I mean, burglary or even murder, those are very horrible crimes, but sex crimes seem to be, to me anyway, the most personally invasive thing you could do to anybody. You can take someone's TV, but to take their innocence is so much more destructive. And it lasts. It's not something that happens and goes away. The victim has to deal with that for the rest of their lives.
Okay, well, give us a brief synopsis of the book without giving
Without
too
giving
much away.
Yeah, this has been quite a difficult thing to do, this being my first novel, without actually telling people what it's about. But it deals with sex crimes. But what has happened is Jack Grant, the protagonist, is a young journalist who wrote a paper that was shunned really by the general public. Well, not the general public, specific people, but who are powerful within the readership. And so his reputation has really been seriously tarnished. So he's really struggling to come to terms with that and wondering how he can get back out there and gain a reputation again for being a good journalist. And he's phoned out of the blue by Siyabonga Mabena, who is dying in a hospital in Johannesburg with the promise of these stories that will effectively change his life. He then goes and, with selfish intention, I mean, he's got nothing else to lose, I guess, and goes and starts listening to these stories. And they turn out to be very, very graphic and very hard-hitting. And it starts affecting Jack Grant's life because he doesn't know how to digest them, how to deal with what Sia's telling him. And it really goes on from there for Jack to develop his understanding of what's going on and whether whether it's real, whether it's not real, whether it did actually happen in reality, or whether this guy's just an old fart looking for a final hurrah.
Okay, so the crime genre, as you mentioned earlier, we have a sort of rich supply of, I guess, ideas for this type of genre. Is this a genre you're wanting to stay in?
Look, it's something it's difficult to say. It's something I'm interested in. I think a lot of people, as I said earlier, they overlook sex crimes. I mean, we know that South Africa has one of the highest rape instances in the world. And those are only the cases that we even know about. And there doesn't seem to be anything dealing with these kinds of problems that we do have. So it's difficult to say whether or not the next book will also involve this particular set of crimes. So a good question. You'll have to wait and see.